Want to better understand yourself, others, and the best path for your life? Welcome to Authentic Living, podcast for a better life. The podcast where we delve into life themes and how learning who you authentically are can change your entire life. Here are your hosts, John Boris and Kim Ely.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are so excited to have you for Authentic Living, podcast for a better life. And y'all, we have an amazing show for you today. As usual, we have our co-host, me, Kim Wells Ely, and also John Boris.
Hello.
Hello. And in addition, we have the amazing Melissa Wells. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, and we have a fabulous guest today, and we are so excited to have you with us, Linda Hardenstein. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Actually, it's Hardenstein.
Thank you.
What may help you remember is a beer stein. Just think of a beer stein.
There we go. Having a beer with Linda. There we go. Awesome.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Well, Linda, tell us briefly who you are, and then we would love to ask you some questions if you're open to that.
Well, I'm a professional certified coach, and I specialize in working with professionals to help them achieve their career goals. And I do that working with them if they want to change careers, or even if they're in a career or a management or leadership position and they want to advance or expand their professional development, their growth in the position that they're doing.
Oh, Linda, that's amazing and so needed. Holy macaroni. Oh, I can't wait to ask you questions. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to start off because I have it under good understanding that you and John have known each other for a while. Is that correct?
John and I have known each other for over 10 years, and we've worked together for that length of time.
Oh, amazing. So from the experience of working with John with Authentic Systems, and just to give our listeners a quick little recap, with Authentic Systems, we talk about 4 archetypes, right? Love, justice, wisdom, and power. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go into this. But from your experience of working with John and also working with your own clients, are you able to find the life theme of your clients when you're just speaking with them?
Well, because of the training that I've had working with John, I usually can zero in on their life themes after I've asked them a few questions or gathered some information from them. Yes.
Excellent. And we want to know a little bit more about how it all works. So I'll throw it over to Melissa.
Thing is that I know Linda, we met at a Women in Business Chamber conference a long time ago. It's got to be over 10 years now, right?
Yeah.
And I told her, my background is in assessments. So I was a learning style assessment developer for a Silicon Valley company. And anyhow, she got me involved with John Boris, and I'm forever grateful for that because it really has been a life-changing experience for sure. But, because I have this assessment background, and I know that, Linda, you are certified, and as a coach, a lot of coaches do use personality profiles to help them. So what personality profiles did you use before you worked with John?
Well, I used a personality profile that really helped people identify their strengths, the strength deployment inventory. I also used the leadership circle assessment, which is more for leaders than it is for career. But I've also done some other, had people come to me that had information that they gathered, from other assessments like Hogan assessments,
Right.
Some big name assessments.
Yeah. I mean, when you came across John and you started to assess your clients with him, like what was that impact in terms of your coaching and how that affected your clients? Did you see what was the difference in a way?
A lot of people too know there's Myers-Briggs type, right?
Yeah.
They've taken their Myers-Briggs assessment.
Yeah.
So what I have found is that a lot of assessments tell people who they are just from, if you just took a thin layer of who somebody is, then that's what most assessments do, because you're answering multiple choice questions
Right.
when you fill out most of those forms. The authentic systems assessment really goes much deeper than that. It's, there's just so many layers to it. And one thing I always tell my clients is it's not like a typical assessment where you're answering multiple choice questions and kind of putting yourself in a box.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to actually submit the answers to essay questions, which provides a lot more information about who you are and how you work. And that is what is so important when it comes to finding your authentic career and gaining more satisfaction and meaning from the work that you do. Right. And that's one thing that really excited me about working with John and with his assessment, because, I've been in a career, I did a lot and spent many, many years working with attorneys in a legal career and kind of working my way up, but always looking for what area in the legal field will bring me the most satisfaction, because I was unhappy most of the time. And it wasn't until I came back to California from Washington, D.C., met John and started working with him. And he did an assessment for me. And I discovered why I had been so unhappy.
Wow.
Because, for me, it was maybe I should work with divorce attorneys. Maybe I should work with real estate attorneys. Maybe I should work with probate attorneys. Maybe I should work with trial attorneys. I was trying every different facet of legal that I could get myself into in order to be happy. And none of it really worked. And as I said, it wasn't until I worked with John that I found out why.
So did it kind of blow your mind?
It did blow my mind, but it made perfect sense.
Right.
It was something that I had never seen or recognized.
Right.
And when he said it, it was like, wow, that is perfect sense.
Yeah. It's like in clear view. Like I felt the same way. It's like, wow, this is here all the time. And I had no idea that it was just there, just always there. And he goes, oh, you didn't notice that? I'm like, no, and it's really big.
Right. Yeah, because he really gets into, he tells you at the end of your assessment, really what your purpose is.
Right.
And, part of my purpose was to bring peace to people. And I really see that I do that in the career coaching, because I help them get out of their career misery,
right?
And find greater satisfaction in their career. And I was working in an environment that was always about conflict and being adversarial. So it made a lot of sense. No wonder I could never really find that happy space.
Oh, yeah. No peace in the courtroom, usually.
Right. Right.
Oh, great questions. So I think we were talking about the assessments themselves. And Linda, I love that you mentioned about the fact that it's different, in that it includes essay style. You have a chance to really, with the assessment, get to know the client. John, I'm wondering if you wanted to delve in and ask a little bit about the process.
Oh, yes. Now since I've got you here, it's been a while. I've always wanted to know, after we do our assessments, now you've got this information and your client has the same information. Now you move forward. What is the process in you moving forward? How do you implement the assessment?
Okay. Well, first, before I address that, let me just say that one of my favorite parts about the assessment is that, we work with the client to answer those essay questions. I sit in on that process when you discuss their answers to the essay questions with them and really dive deeper and discover who they are. And then they have a week where they're able to validate the findings. And that to me is the most exciting part, is, having them be able to reflect for a week and then come back later and say, yes, I can see that this is really who I am. Then at that point, you have really set my client and I up with a very strong foundation from which to work. So I take that information from the assessment and my understanding of them and who they are authentically, and then start helping them identify what type of jobs they should target that would really match who they are. And then I also work with them to start putting together a strategy for conducting their job search, make sure that they have the tools, resume, LinkedIn profile, that really express who they are so they can attract to the kind of job that matches who they are, so that they can really find that satisfaction in their work. So it's really a process of using the foundation from the assessment, getting into the job search piece, identifying a target, strategizing about, okay, what steps are you going to take now? How are you going to use your resume? How are you going to network with people? How is LinkedIn, a tool that you can use? And then, of course, as time goes by, when they start getting interviews, which usually happens pretty quickly, then we do interview preparation. And sometimes even after they get a job offer, talk to them about the job offer, whether it sounds like the right fit for them, help them in terms of any decisions that they're trying to make or salary negotiations or anything like that. So really full service all the way through the job search process.
Very good. I did notice that most of the time when somebody comes to a career counselor and they're looking for a job, then quite often they'll go to the jobs out there and see if the client qualifies for that job. But that still happens. But in this case, you can also look at the job and see if it qualifies for the client.
Exactly.
That's very different.
Yes.
Yes. So the next question is, notice that you have a 94% placement rate. So how does this whole process contribute to that high percentage?
Yeah, I think it's really based on what you just mentioned. It's because the person has a clear understanding of who they are. I also have that. So when we target positions that may be a good fit for them, it's easier to kind of zero in on, okay, what should I be looking for? Instead of, a lot of clients come to me because they've sent out blanket resumes, for all these kinds of positions. And they waste a lot of time, effort, and money sometimes doing that, because their focus really should be what kind of position is a good match for me. Exactly. And they don't really know that until they're able to go through some sort of an assessment process.
Right, exactly. Yeah, another distinction is the testing usually focuses on what their experience and what they do. But after the assessment, you discover who they're being, which is very, very different.
Exactly. Who they're being, how they're working, what type of environment best supports their success, all of those things that most traditional assessments don't address.
So does this affect their job retention?
It does. Most of the people that I work with who end up finding jobs end up staying in their jobs at least 2 years, some even longer. Some have been in positions up to 10 years.
Awesome.
And some, have come back to me and said, okay, I got this wonderful job. I'm working in this environment or this company. Now I'm thinking about a leadership position. Do you think that going into leadership would be good for me? We pull out their assessment and kind of walk through. Oh, yes, you'd be a great leader because of these factors that showed up in your assessment.
Wow. So how does that compare to like the rest of your industry in terms of that job retention rate?
I'm not really sure what the statistics are on the rest of the industry. And, as a career coach, you really can't guarantee anybody, that they're going to find a job or how long they're going to be able to stay in one. But really what I focus on is matching my clients with the right kind of position for them, the position that's kind of designed for them, right? Because we all have our specific design and our gifts.
Exactly.
The more you can work according to your design and gifts, then the happier you are. And I think the longer you end up staying in the position because it's what works for you.
So in a way, the self-awareness creates a retention in general, because I'm assuming you're getting a lot of lawyers who are just burnt out on the whole thing and maybe want to be throwing in their lawyer cap. And perhaps after the assessment, they might rethink their career and kind of put themselves in other roles or different kinds of environments based on that.
Yes, that happens a lot. I have worked with a lot of lawyers. I've worked with a lot of other professionals too. And usually what ends up happening is the lawyers don't end up having to throw away their law degree. they
Wow.
usually end up finding another area of law that suits them better.
Right.
There was one client that John and I had that he may remember, who came to me, who was working on her own as a solo practitioner. And even though she had all this freedom and everything, she really was unhappy with the work that she was doing. And she didn't understand why. She'd gotten out of a big law firm and thought she'd be happy in her own business. And then when she discovered that she wasn't, when we took her through the assessment, we helped her identify some things that she was doing on the side that was really a passion of hers.
Oh,
And
nice.
what she ended up doing is becoming a drug court attorney. And she's somebody that's been in that position for a long time. She just loves what she's doing, and it brings her meaning. It brings meaning to her life and career, and she just loves it. So that's an example of not having to give up your law degree, but, you know, finding another area where you can use it and use your expertise.
My
And,
gosh, that's so great. Because I mean,
So much.
you go
happened.
to law school, that's quite a commitment. And then to find out that it might not possibly work. So yeah, kudos to you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So, y'all, I'm loving this discussion. But we need to take a quick break. So, when we come back, we're going to ask you some more questions, Linda, and dive in more.
Okay, great.
After a quick break, John and Kim will be back with more of Authentic Living, podcast for a better life.
Do you start projects feeling on fire and later on find yourself getting burned out? If so, you are not alone. A recent poll showed that more than 7,500 full-time employees experience burnout. 23% of those workers said that they felt burned out more often than not. I want you to know it is normal to feel burnt out. Cut yourself some slack. In Keeping Your Spark, I empower your project or team members with 5 surprising ways to keep their spark going, even if they currently feel like a burnt ember. Contact me at kwe@kwepub.com or at 804-536-1972 to book me and reignite your spark.
Welcome back to Authentic Living, podcast for a better life. Here's John Voris and Kim Ely.
Hi, we're so glad that y'all are back with us. We are having a fantastic discussion here on Authentic Living, the podcast for a better life. And you are here with me, Kim Ely, John Voris, Melissa Wells, and our special guest speaker, Linda Hardenstein, like Beerstein, right? Right? I did it. All right. So we've been having a great discussion, Linda, about authentic systems and how you have used the assessment that you work on along with John to ask your clients and learn more about them. So I'm curious to know, like, what is their reaction when, you know, they find out the answers? How are they impacted?
Well, when they find out the answers to the assessment, usually they're a little bit kind of stunned because they realize they have the words really to describe who they are, and they've never had those words before. I remember one client that John and I had, she said, after she finished the assessment, she told me, she said, "You guys didn't even know me, and you understand who I am."
Oh,
And
that's
she said,
amazing.
"Nobody has ever understood who I am."
Very good.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And it happens pretty quickly, you know, really after the first session. They realize that, you know, John, with his wisdom and ability to perform these assessments, really, you know, has a handle on who they are.
Oh, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
as a result, do you find your clients have a greater, sense of self-acceptance? You know, how are they different afterwards?
Yes, they do have a greater sense of self-acceptance, and I think they're more willing to take chances. I'm thinking of one client who really needed to be in a different career. He came to me because he was really bored with what he was doing. It was monotonous, you know, it was doing the same thing day after day. And even though he was getting paid good money, he was like, there's got to be something more, you know, to life than this. And once he had the assessment done and realized that he should be doing something that had a design component, in doing the same thing over and over, there was no opportunity for him to use his sense of design in the work that he did.
Mm-hmm.
And once he realized that, yes, somebody reflected that back to him, yes, this is what you should be doing, then he was more willing to say, okay, I'm going to start taking courses in this area, and did end up pursuing a whole new type of career.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I suspect, and Linda, tell me if I'm on the right track, but I think so many people are told, oh, you're good at speaking, you should be a lawyer. And I think it makes sometimes people feel less than, like, oh my gosh, I should be good at this because everybody's told me I'm good at this. Have you seen that in people where they're like, give up that old mindset?
Yes, I have. I can relate to that myself because I'm someone who's very organized, and everywhere I worked, I come in and organize things. And somebody told me once I should be a professional organizer. But there's so much more to the work that I enjoy doing. I really like dynamically working with people, and there's nothing wrong with being a professional organizer, of course, but that really would not have been the career path for me to take and be happy.
Oh, that's so interesting. I guess yeah.
Actually, John, I think this is you. Like, didn't your parents want you to be a lawyer?
Oh, absolutely. And I went to law school and I didn't care for it.
No.
The funny thing was, what I thought would be difficult was easy, but what I thought was easy was very difficult. And at the same time, I just lost interest. Yes.
When you assessed yourself, whenever that was, did it make sense that you didn't want to be a lawyer?
No, I did not know that yet. I didn't develop this until after law school. I owned a delicatessen and sold it. And one of the vendors came to me and asked that I sell for him. And that's how I wound up with retail door-to-door sales. And I had to design something because I had failed 7 times before. So I had to design something where I could use language in a way that can discover what motivates other people. That's what I did. That's why this today. But it was much after.
But it made sense probably after you realized the things and the other things that you.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. Then I turned it on myself, and oh my God, that's why I was that way. Sure. Yeah.
And it's interesting, you can have a sliver of something, just like I said, I'm good at organizing. Mm-hmm. But if you base your whole career on that, then that's what can get you in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. And I wanted to say that another distinction is you might love what you do, but not who you're being, but you can love who you're being and not what you're doing. That's distinction not made. So if you're good in accounting, does not mean you want to be an IRS agent.
Right.
Because who you're being as an IRS agent for many is not something they're going to deal with, but they love numbers. And so what happens is, like Linda's saying, just because there's an aspect of who you are that seems to resonate with a great deal of talent, it doesn't mean that's where you should go. That's not the issue. The issue, it's holistic. That's what the assessment is, holistic. Another is the normal tests are multiple choice, but it's one round of questions. So what we do is, I'll say, you answered it a certain way. They'll say, well, why do you feel that way? And they'll tell me. I would say, so what? Well, what does that mean to you? And we'll start digging down. But see, a multiple choice questionnaire can't do that.
Right. And John, you brought up a wonderful point too about it being holistic. I'm thinking of a client that we had who came to us and said, I think I want to be a baker because I love baking. Right. And when she went through the assessment, we discovered that her being a baker, that was something that was her rejuvenator, which is another piece that you identify in your assessment. What is it in life that rejuvenates us, right? Helps us not only be who we are when we're working, but then raises our energy level after we're working.
Yes.
And it kind of reminds me of people who say, I'm going to retire and I'm going to play golf all day. Right. Well, you can play golf all day for maybe a week or 2 weeks. And then, because it was your rejuvenator when you were working, it's no longer what's fulfilling you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's another piece of your assessment that I really think is beneficial.
Well, thank you. The other issue is what you and I would do is go to the point of discovering whether they're resigned in life, whether they're content, whether they're happy. And we dig down to that point. That's very, very different. So can you explain a little difference of after you've placed them and their attitude about their work?
The feedback that I've gotten is everybody's happy with what they're doing. Once they find a job that's in alignment with who they are.
Right. Because when I went to look for a job and went to a placement center, the first thing they did is, what's your experience? Well, there's a lot of experience here, but I didn't like what I did. They don't ask you that. They want to know, did you do this? And it's not in the doing, it's in the being. And that's what the Authentic Systems generates. And you understand that fully well, being certified yourself.
Yes. And also sometimes people, I did this in my own life too, is you think, okay, I'm going to change jobs and everything's going to be different for me. Right. But like you said, you're bringing yourself into that and you're not recognizing that you're creating the same conditions that you just got out of. You're repeating a pattern. You're getting into a new job, but pretty soon it's like, this seems just like the last job. I'm not happy here, or I'm not doing the work that I want to do, or they won't let me do this, and then, that's another thing that through the assessment, I can help them recognize this was a pattern because you were attracted to the same kind of position. And now that we have this body of knowledge from your assessment, we can look at other things, and we can also make sure that we structure our interview questions so that you don't end up in a job that was just like your last one.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's huge. So, Linda, I have to ask, because I often speak with coaches and sometimes they will say, I love my clients. I just wish they would do what I told them. So I'm really curious to know, when you've worked with clients and especially having done the assessment, are they open to doing what you tell them to do?
They usually are. I can't think of anybody that I've worked with that hasn't been, because they're really motivated by what they've discovered during the assessment phase. And they're motivated to move forward. And just like I said in the example a little earlier about somebody who may be reluctant to make a change or change direction in their career, they're a lot more open to it because they recognize, yes, this matches more of who I am. So it's very exciting to see that.
Excellent. Oh, that's good to hear. Very cool. Well, I wanted to ask you also, if our listeners are interested and would like to get in touch with you, maybe they are somebody who is looking to make a career change, something like that. Well, I guess my first question would be, who are the people who most contact you? What kind of state of life are they in? And then how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I do a lot of work with mid-career professionals. And by mid-career, I mean, they've, been in their job maybe a couple of years. Sometimes I work with, people who are in their 30s and they've had experience working and they realized, hey, this isn't for me and I don't know what I should do next. Or, they've put in a lot of time. This is kind of the situation that I was in. They put in a lot of time in a career and they're like, okay, I've worked my whole life just to get a paycheck and be in survival mode. And now I'm kind of getting up there and I want to do something that I really enjoy. So what should I switch into? Yeah. And sometimes, I've worked with people just out of college too, who want to know, what route should I take?
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that would probably be, optimal, right? Because I wish I knew all this before I went into college.
Exactly. It saves a lot of years of pain.
Dadgummit. So awesome. Well, if our listeners wanted to get in touch with you, Linda, what would be the best way for them to do that?
They can reach me through my website, which is lindahardenstein.com. And,
Awesome.
If they want to speak to me, there's a mechanism there where they can schedule a complimentary consultation with me. So I'd be happy to hear from them.
Fantastic.
And I would like to shout out to the people who are listening who are coaches themselves and would like to either become certified as an Authentic Systems counselor or just interested in talking with John or curious about the program that we offer here. So you can go to that by going to johnvoris.com. That's V as in victory, ORIS, johnvoris.com/for, FOR dash coaches. So it's johnvoris.com/for-coaches. And just go to the website, it's there also. And just there's a little form, you can talk to him through that, and you can definitely get certified to be an authentic systems counselor.
You can. And I would like to share with everybody, Linda is officially certified. So tell us a little bit about that, John.
Well, for her, she's very unique. I've been with her for 10 years, but I do certify others. It usually involves at least one workshop, and we run 15 to 20 assessments. And then they learn through that process. And then I sit in on other assessments, 5, and listen to see how they do. And once that happens, then they're certified. Usually takes about 6 weeks.
Awesome. And yet what a big difference. Small amount of time for a huge impact. Would you agree, Linda?
I would agree. Yes. Really has helped me broaden my practice a lot.
Ah, fantastic. Yeah.
You know, I would like to add, so Linda is an ICF trained certified coach, and she helped develop that program with John. So this program was developed with her advice. She's an incredible coach, and she's really, really good. And so it makes this even more powerful. So thank you, Linda.
And I just want to say that we're just starting this campaign. And so Linda at this point is my singular coach who is certified. And so for people looking for coaches, you're not going to find this anywhere else but through Linda.
There we go. Good point. Excellent. So I would also, as we wrap up, first like to say, Linda, thank you. This has been amazing. And oh my gosh, I've learned a ton. And I think our listeners have as well. I wanted to find out what's the best way if people, John and Melissa, are interested in learning more, they want to have an assessment. What's the best way to get in touch?
Oh, I know the answer to that.
Good. Yay.
John does too. So the best way and the easiest is to go to johnvoris.com. But he's also on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. And where else are you?
Quora.
He's on Quora. He answers. How many questions have you answered on Quora, John?
Oh, hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he's definitely on Quora. But there's a ton of blog posts there. There's a lot of information. You can get assessed yourself. He offers 2 packages, the life theme assessment and the complete authentic systems assessment. So the John Voris is really, and you can also purchase his book too through Amazon or through the sites. What is that book called, John?
Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality.
That's right. So it's a great book. And actually, well, he and Kim are currently ready to put out another book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a little sneaky peek on that. Now, the other thing is that he has a business site where he mostly talks about selling sales programs and doing assessments on a more professional level. And that's at authentic-systems.com. That's authentic-systems.com. So that's another route. And that's more of his B2B, whereas the John Voris is really his author website.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Good.
Good to be with all of you.
This concludes another episode of Authentic Living, podcast for a better life. Thanks for spending time with us. Hope you join us again soon.